Welcome to the DreamMason podcast. I'm your host, Alex Terranova. A DreamMason is a person who's brave enough to declare they have a dream and committed enough to do the work to build it. I know we all have a DreamMason inside of us, and my dream for this podcast is to support us by giving us a glimpse inside the hearts and minds of leaders, creators, and innovators to help us unleash our inner DreamMason. Because your dreams don't build themselves. What's up, and welcome back to the DreamMason podcast. I'm your host, Alex Terranova. I am a DreamMason, a performance and mindfulness coach. I work with leaders, creators, and innovators, those brave enough to build their dreams. If you're a high performer looking for an edge, with a desire to expand your leadership, generate more money, more time, and feel more fulfilled, working with me will support you in making that life a reality. Now, if you haven't already, please support me and this podcast by subscribing and leaving a review on iTunes, Google Play, or YouTube. Follow me, Inspirational Alex, on Instagram, and please share this podcast with a friend. Welcome back to the DreamMason podcast. I am here today with the guy behind the guys. I feel like you have all the nicknames. So the guy behind the guys on Instagram with your newly minted 1 million followers, you just go by Paul. You have your company or your brand is the Internet Marketing Nerd. You are an internet marketing coach. You have worked with, well, the guys that you are behind are people like Bob Proctor, Tai Lopez, Alex, how do you say his last name? Mehr?
Alex Mehr, yeah.
The Sharks, other Fortune 500 other Fortune 500 companies, and A-list celebrities. You're all over the place.
I stay busy, that's for sure.
That's what it sounds like. Hey, Paul Getter, thanks for being here. I'm really curious to learn more about how you got to where you are, because you don't create an introduction like that, just rolling out of bed in the morning.
Right, yeah. Well, it's been a long journey, and I've been involved in internet marketing now for over 10 years, and just been very fortunate to work with some really cool people, that's for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it. How did you get started? Because I mean, you didn't roll out of bed at 5 and go, I want to be an internet marketer. Where did this come from?
Right. Well, a lot of times people ask me, well, how did you become an entrepreneur? That's the catchword, entrepreneur. How did you become an entrepreneur? I'm like, look, I had bills that needed to get paid, and I tried to hustle and do whatever I could to make some money. But no, really, I always kind of had a tech background. Was involved in building websites, and back in the days, it was bulletin board systems and networks and stuff. And I was in a transitional phase where I was looking for work, and one of my friends had went off to college and said, hey, stay in touch with me, keep in contact with me on Facebook. I'm like, I don't want to get on that Facebook. And then finally I got onto Facebook and started making connections. And over time, I realized that there was an opportunity to learn marketing and maybe connect with people and make money through Facebook.
So you're self-taught. You taught yourself how to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, a lot of it, but in the journey, obviously you connect with people that are doing what you're doing and, have experience in things that you're not doing. But yeah, that's the cool thing about today is you can jump on YouTube and you can learn something. And, but when I first started doing Facebook ads, there really wasn't any courses. There wasn't all these agencies and people teaching you. So it was just playing around with it and doing it, and kind of learned it right out the gate when Facebook started launching their ad platform.
So for you, how many years have you been in internet marketing now?
So it's been over 10 years. I would say about 11 or 12 years approximately. The first couple of years was just trying to figure things out and wasn't necessarily making any money, and it was more kind of like a hobby and just having fun. I used to build Facebook pages for a hobby. And then I started having people reach out to me and say, hey, will you post this on your page? Will you help me build my page? And I was like, wow, these people are going to pay me to help them build their page. And so from there, it started to transition into an opportunity to make money.
So you kind of, in a way, almost like fell into the opportunity in kind of a, you saw something obviously and you grabbed onto it, but this wasn't like a dream or something that you'd been wanting to do.
No, like I said, I used to build websites and started playing around with helping people build mobile apps and things like that. But when it came into the marketing side of things, it definitely wasn't an intentional, but I saw people, ads running. I'm like, I can do that, and kind of figured it out, and read a little bit, and just started testing and playing around with things. And after doing it for a little while, I realized, like, wow, this is pretty cool. I think, and then people start hearing about you. And back then in the days, there wasn't a whole lot of people doing Facebook ads. So if you knew how to do anything on the Facebook ad platform, people would reach out to you and say, hey, help me out. I see you're doing stuff. And so it was a really cool opportunity back then.
It's cool to hear it and how it happened like so organically and without much like you didn't go to school for this, right? People go to school to get degrees in marketing. And the world that we live in now, to your point about how you can go on Google, that so many of us get stopped by like, oh, I don't have the education, or I don't have this thing that I need, or I don't have whatever. And what I love about your introduction into internet marketing is you kind of just like went for it. You kind of just learned, you kind of played around, but you didn't let yourself be held back by some, well, I don't have the training for this.
Yeah, I've got friends that have degrees in marketing, and for that matter, in internet marketing. And I remember one of my friends, he was talking to me about marketing. He just graduated with a degree in internet marketing. And I started asking him, like, oh, do you know how to do this? You know how to do this? Like, no, I don't. I'm like, what did you learn in college if you don't know how to do, these, you don't know how to run these ad platforms? And I think maybe it was concepts and stuff that they learned. But, I have two sons in college, and they've learned internet marketing. I'm kind of like one of those fathers that is encouraging his kids to drop out of college and start making money. So, it really is. Granted, college is great for the relationships, the experience, but if you're just going for the raw knowledge of learning things, unless you just need that structure for the discipline, then really you can learn stuff online or through mentors, coaching, and courses available online that is more marketable and can make you money than a typical degree might get you.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, do your kids think you're cool for that attitude, or are they like, no, you got to go to college? What's their?
Yeah, no. They're both entrepreneurs, and so matter of fact, one of my sons, he's taken a semester off so that he can work a little bit closer with dad, and so in even while they were in high school, they were doing internet marketing type stuff and kind of learning stuff from me, and making money at an early age. So they know that. Fortunately, we don't have a whole lot financially invested in it because they were bright enough to get scholarships and things like that. But again, I'm not one of those like, oh, don't go to college, because there's opportunities and you can meet some really cool people. But the educational aspect of it, I think there's you can learn a lot more outside of that.
Yeah. I really want to look at it and talk about the start and the journey of your business, because it's where you are now is where a lot of people would want to be, in their respective businesses. You're working with people whose names we know. You're working with people that are in media and on TV. It occurs as successful, right? Like everyone's different definition of success is arbitrary and different.
Sure.
But that's how that's all we can see, right? We don't get to like look at at your books and determine how well you're doing. But I love the idea that, hey, this is your 12 years now in, and I know from day one you weren't hitting home runs. So tell me about the journey. Like, where was that first moment where you went, I don't know if I can do this?
Yeah, when I first got started, it again, it was kind of accidental in the fact that I was making money. And I was, at this time, I was working for a, a guy doing merchant processing. It was kind of one of those phases where I was, I guess you would say, people like to say I was in between jobs. So I was in between jobs, and I hated it. My employer was mean, rude, nasty. He was one of these type guys that would come in and just cussing and yelling, and just, a really volatile workplace, and I didn't like it at all. And I remember one day I saw him pull up in his car, and he was driving a nice car. Everybody's like, he lives in this nice place down by the beach. And I was like, man, this guy's got a bad attitude. He's nasty. He's rude. But yet he's making all this money. And I didn't think he was any smarter than me or anything like that. And I surely didn't think he had a better personality than me. And I thought, well, if this guy can do it, surely I've got a chance. And so I started making sacrifices to move out of this job, where, like, on my lunch breaks and at night, I would build websites for people and do things. I used to do SEO, search engine optimization, did things like that. And then the world of social media marketing started opening. And again, I was just kind of building Facebook pages as a hobby. It was kind of fun to do. And then I learned the techniques and the algorithm of it all. And it just, I remember it was kind of like, one day I was like, wow, I think I'm going to be able to make enough to make the car payment just building these Facebook pages and stuff. And then it was like, wow, I think I can make enough to pay the rent. And then it went, sometime later, I was like, wow, I think I might be able to quit my job. And I eventually quit my job working with this guy, and was building Facebook pages and doing kind of the basic level Facebook marketing. And it initially started as a part-time, and then moved into a full-time opportunity.
Did you have kids then when you were starting this out?
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, I have 3 kids, and they were 8, 9, 10, 11 years old during this time. And so, yeah, it was a lot of staying up late at night, and getting 3, 4 hours, 5 hours of sleep, and just trying to figure out, again, watching videos and talking to people, and just trying to figure it out.
What do you think? I love that you said that. Like, you actually said to start with, I made sacrifices, and there were lots of late nights, no sleep, lots of what sounds like studying.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who want to do something? A lot of people, they'll use their kids or their situation as an excuse to not do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool about what you did is you call them sacrifices. You move things out of the way to go do the things that you want to do. What do you say to people that struggle with that? Like, how does somebody do that?
Yeah. So, what you have to, a lot of times people want this immediate gratification. Of course, on online stuff, there's this huge misconception that it's like, the get rich quick type deal. And very rarely does that happen. A lot of people, they'll say stuff like, oh man, you just popped up overnight. I'm like, it was like 12 years overnight. And, there was a long time that nobody knew what I was doing. I wasn't speaking at big conferences and didn't have big name clients. And so there was a lot of that. And it honestly, it was never really in my mind that, oh, I want to work with these big guys and stuff. There was never that. It was just like, I want to make a living. I want to be able to pay the bills. I don't want to have this mean, nasty boss telling me what to do. And so yeah, you have to make sacrifices. There are things that you make a sacrifice today, and years later you will reap the reward of that sacrifice. And when I was in this beginning phase, yeah, there was times that the family time was limited and we weren't going on nice vacations and things like that. I was just trying to work. And I remember I used to, every time I would leave the house, I would have to take my computer with me because it was just like a one-man show and it was stressful. And I was always watching my phone for every email and, you know, just trying to figure it out. And, you know, so you have to make that sacrifice. But, you know, now looking back, where we are now, obviously the sacrifice was worth it.
How did you keep that balance, right? Because it could go off the deep end in the sense of you're like, hey, I had to take my computer, I had to take my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you clearly have a good relationship with your sons,
mm-hmm.
you know, and so you have a family dynamic that goes on. How did you keep the balance so that you did get enough of, you had a job, you had a side hustle, basically, you're building a business on your own, and then you had family. And it seems like your side hustle started encroaching on everything. How did you keep all the kind of other pieces in order so you didn't have, you know, a life that falls apart, but now you have a business?
Yeah, well, so the one thing, I've been married almost 25 years now. And
congratulations.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
an accomplishment.
yeah, that's you know, I told one guy that, he's like, oh, I've been married 40 years, 10 years to this lady, 20 years to this lady. I'm like, no, 25 years, one person. But you know, my wife, she made sacrifices too. And she, you know, she's really quick to remind me, because there was times when in the internet marketing, there comes a point where you know what you're doing. You've figured it out. You find something that is working, but it doesn't mean you're making money, because you have to have money to invest into ads. Well, you know, I might be able to spend $300, $400, $500 in ads and make a couple $1,000s, but that's not going to get me to the next level. So I remember it was around Christmas time, my wife got a Christmas bonus. She used to be a director of a hospital, and she got a Christmas bonus. And I took that Christmas bonus and I took every bit of it and I put it into Facebook ads. And she was so upset. She was, you know, why would you do that? You know, that was my Christmas bonus. But I was able to take it. I think it was like, you know, $7,000 or $8,000. And I was able to take that and turn it into, you know, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, and just, you know, multiplied it from there. But she's always quick to remind me that it was her Christmas bonus that got us to where we are now. So I think the answer is it's not something that is done by myself. I got a great family. And they've helped support in this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that she still brings it back, and that she actually, first off, that she let you, you know, or that you guys had that partnership, that she trusted you to take that bonus.
Well,
I feel like she didn't trust me.
I think I just did it whether she wanted it or not, and it just. But no. She obviously she trusts me to do that, and you know, because again, like I said, I'd figured something out, and it was just a matter of I needed more money to get it to the next level.
So aside from stealing money from your spouse, when money's a stop, so like if listeners are like, man, the thing I want to do, I don't have enough money for. What do they do? Because right, we don't all have the spouse's Christmas bonus to.
Yeah. So man, I tell you, it wasn't just that. There was nights where I was delivering phone books. You know, we would load up the minivan, a couple hundred phone books, and we were making, man, it sounds crazy, but like $50 or $60 a night just delivering phone books.
Wow.
Some people may not even know what a phone book is because they're so antiquated. But man, I was doing whatever I could. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, where I believe that if you just look around, you can find opportunities to make money. When I was a kid, we used to get our lawnmower and just walk down the street and see people that's grass was high, and then knock on the door and say, hey, we'll mow your grass for $5. And, do that. And at, 11, 12 years old, making $20 on a Saturday, that was good money. We would do things like that. We would go to houses and just knock on doors and say, hey, can we take out your garbage? And they'd give us 50 cents a dollar for taking out their garbage. And you do that all day. Man, I remember, as early as 11, 12, 13 years old, doing that and making $100, which is like, that's $1 million to an 11-year-old. So I think that there's, if you look close enough, there are opportunities to make money.
It's great. I love that you just went out and looked for it. But so who taught you how to do that, right? Like when you were a little boy and you were doing this, was there somebody that was an influence on you that kind of taught you to see opportunity? Or do you think this was just something that was inherent and natural to you as a human being?
Yeah, well, I think it's maybe a little bit of both. My parents were, I joke around about it. My dad was a agricultural entrepreneur. This is before it was legal. So
okay. Got it.
Yeah. So I remember as a young kid, he would be out in the backyard watering large marijuana plants, and he would say, hey, stay away from it, it's poison ivy. I'm like, man, why is Dad watering the poison ivy? So that was a part of my life. It was a very poor upbringing, but there came a day when my parents, I guess you would say, matured, and my dad was a hard worker. He managed dry cleaners, started up his own dry cleaner, and we went from in my childhood, from what we would say is dirt poor to somewhere between poor and middle class. So I saw them go up the ladder. They were both hard workers, but so you can see that as an example, but it doesn't necessarily kick in until you need it. I think that necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, when you are put in a situation where I got to make some money, or the lights aren't going to get turned on, I gotta make some money, or the kids aren't going to get fed, then it puts you in a position where you'll hustle. And so that happened to us, where it was like, I got to make some money or the bills aren't going to get paid. And so I got into action.
It's really cool. And it's unfortunate, like you had to do it from like real desperation or real life situations. I think I use with clients a lot, I'll say, they'll tell me they can't do something, or they think something's going to be hard or impossible. And that's one of my favorite examples. If you had to pay a hospital bill for your kid, or your kid couldn't go to school anymore if you didn't make that money, what would you actually be willing to do? And not everything's on the table, right? There's some things that you can say no to some things, yeah. But what would you be willing to do to make that money to create the life that you want?
Right.
It just sounds like you were, as a child, as a grown up, as a father, as a husband, you were willing to do those things. Like, I love that you shared that phone book story, because that's real. People don't talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's, and not only that. So here's a cool thing about it is, as I mentioned, I've got 2 sons in college, and I'm like, here, let me give you this. Unfortunately, this generation has a entitlement mentality where they feel like they're like, just give me. My kids have anything but that. I mean, I try to tell them to spend my money, and they're like, no, Dad, we'll make our own money. And I think a part of that is because when I was delivering phone books, they were there with me. They were in the van with me, grabbing the phone books and running and dropping it off to the doors. And again, we would do that in the evening time and make $40 or $50. So it wasn't much money at all, but it was $40 or $50 that we needed. So yeah, I mean, it's when you're put in a position where you have to make the money, then the reality kicks in and you'll do whatever it takes.
What keeps you, so you're not there anymore, right? You're not delivering phone books for 40 or 50 bucks. You have elevated yourself way beyond that. What's the thing that keeps you hungry now? Like, how do you push to the next big goal or the next big dream?
Yeah. So, a cool aspect of it now is that it's not just me. We've got a good sized team. We've got multiple employees, just, a good team. And so I look at it from the perspective that what I do is not just for me now, but I've got 20 other people depending on me for them to get their bills paid. So I try to keep that in mind. And then my future, my legacy, what I do pass on to my kids, that's important. I want to leave them something. I want to give them something more than just what I had growing up. So that keeps me going.
That's great. What's the thing that you see for them? So you have two kids that are in college. They're both entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
If you could say, right, and you can't because they're going to make their own choices and live their own life, but if you saw something for them, what do you think is available because of what you've kind of started?
Yeah. So let me just add to that. I have two sons, but I also have a daughter too. So I've got a total of 3 children. My daughter would be upset if she heard this and didn't.
Yeah.
And she's just as well-rounded as her brother. She just graduated from high school this past year. But what I see is, and I think every parent probably has this desire, is that you want to give your children better than what you had growing up. And it's not something that necessarily you want to support them, but you want to equip them and you want to give them the tools that is necessary. It's one thing, like the old saying goes, you can give a person a fish and feed them a day, or you teach them to fish and feed them a lifetime. So that's what I want to do, is give them the skills that they need and teach them. And whether it's doing what I'm doing or doing something completely different, there are entrepreneur skills, there are interpersonal skills that you can teach and you can learn, and relationships that I've established that they can benefit from. All of those things are something that I want to give them.
Are there any of those skills that you can actually share that are like, what skills would there be that you think everyone should actually have going into this world to be successful?
Yes. So one of the most valuable things is maybe not exclusively a skill, but the ability to establish relationships. When you recognize that relationships is the foundation of everything, every business that you do. You can only go so far without relationships. And there was really a transitional phase in my business and what I was doing, because I was doing, went from making nothing to doing really good, where people would say this is successful, but I was very to myself, recluse, and didn't talk to people much about it, and just kind of kept everything to myself. Well, and a couple different reasons why people do that is, you feel like you've got this special talent that you don't want people to figure out what you're doing, and you don't want people to compete against you. And so you kind of keep this to yourself, and you just kind of like hide and don't let people know about it. So there was that reason, a little bit of fear of competition and things like that, insecurity. But when I finally got over that and began to establish relationships and connect with people that are doing what I'm doing, and people that are doing bigger things, then it gives you an opportunity to learn from those people and to grow. So there really is a lot to be said about going to conferences, having mentors, and building relationships with people. And, you know, it's like, for example, this podcast with you today, it's about relationship. I believe that everybody that I connect with, I can learn something from, I can glean from, and there is added value in my life, and hopefully I can bring added value into their life too. And we can all grow together.
I love that. I actually, right before this call, I was working with a client and we were talking about their business and what would be, if they were approaching their business outside of just checking the boxes, right? Like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. The thing that they brought was relationship. They're like, well, I'd be in deeper relationships. I'd be more connected. I would be writing the emails differently that I'm writing. And you could just see a shift in this client's being because of that, right? They were actually getting more excited about the thing. So it wasn't just about the relationship with the other person. It actually changed who they were going to show up as. It's very
Right.
cool to hear you basically say the one skill that's the most important is relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Because with relationships, there you can learn the skills that you need, whether it's sales, whether it's internet marketing, whether, you know, it's copywriting, whatever it is, that is going to be learned through relationships with somebody. And so you want to surround yourself with the people that you want to, you know, you esteem to be like.
So what's been the hardest thing for you after, you know, in the building of your business? Now you have people working for you, you're working with top-notch people. What's still the biggest challenge for you?
Well, you know, I think when you look at the just the day-to-day stresses of a business, entrepreneurs, I think they excel under pressure. I mean, that's just kind of like we work the best when we're under pressure, and the best comes out of us when you're under pressure. You know, people always say, you know, what's inside of you when you're put under pressure, that's what's going to come out. So the real you comes out when you're under pressure. But, you know, some of the biggest challenges that you face probably at any level is the ability to look beyond where you are in that moment. Because I think, and I can say this for me and most people that are motivated and aspire, regardless of where you find yourself at, you always want to be somewhere different. And, you know, you can kind of get into yourself like, oh man, I'm not there. And you get frustrated, you know, I should be doing this much. I should be doing that. So, you know, you kind of have to be able to look back at where you are and appreciate where you currently are, but still not get frustrated and upset that you aren't where you want to be.
I love that. And I'm sure you see this with certain people. I notice it with me. I'll set a goal, you know, I'll say, I'm going to make this much money. And if I only made that much money, then we're good.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get there and you're like, this isn't enough.
Yeah.
And we can do that with anything, right? Money's an easy one because it's super measurable. But that's a really great example. What I heard you say was appreciation, gratitude,
Absolutely.
like really being grateful and appreciate where you are while you're striving to do the next thing, versus I think what we see so often is people spend more time complaining, suffering, stuck, and that's what they're focused on, which and makes getting to the next thing almost impossible.
Yeah, yeah. If you can't be grateful and appreciative for what you have, I think it limits where you're going to go, because you just get stuck, you get frustrated, you get upset. But you obviously have to maintain this gratefulness, and when you begin to succeed financially, it's easy to lose grasp of where you were, where you came from. And, because you're making money, the bills are getting paid, and you've got that, and you can take for granted how appreciative you should be that, hey, there used to be a day where, man, I didn't know, like I used to park the car around the corner. You know what I mean? Used to park the car around the corner because I didn't know if the repo man was going to come or not. And there was that fear. And, my wife and I, we joke around about it sometimes, because in businesses, you do have stresses. You have stresses of working with different clients and, just the normal stress. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is stress, but it's a different type of stress. We're not stressing out about, are the lights going to get turned off? Is the car going to get repoed and things like that. So I would much rather have this type of stress than that type of stress.
What have it almost sounds like, you do the internet marketing for a lot of, I don't have a better name, but coaches, gurus, leaders, people in spaces like that, entrepreneurs. And as you're talking, I can almost hear them through you, right? And you can probably hear you through them, right? Because we don't know who came first or whatnot. But it has me curious, like some of the people that we talked about, like Bob Proctor, huge name. I'm super familiar with him. He's brilliant. What's something you've learned from people like Bob Proctor, Tai Lopez, the Sharks,
Yeah. They're, 15, 20 years ago for me, in my mind, to work with people that, were making millions of dollars. It just seemed almost intimidating. It seemed like, wow, I can't be in the same room with them. I'd be nervous to talk to them. And, but then, I get around these people that are hugely successful financially and, live in multi-million-dollar homes. And I realize they're just like me. They've had to go through struggles. They have, they found something, and they put their time and their effort, and they worked hard, and they've achieved that. A lot of times, for me, I used to think that very wealthy people are smarter than me, or, they had a better upbringing than me. Because as I mentioned, I didn't have a good upbringing when it comes to financially and that type of stuff. I didn't have that at all. We were on welfare and food stamps and things like that. So I always felt kind of intimidated. But then I realized, man, some of them have the same story as me. They're not necessarily smarter than me. They're not more talented than me, but they've just found something and they put themselves into it. So they're just like me and you.
So if them or they or we are not smarter, don't always have the better upbringing, like don't necessarily have all the advantages, what would you say is the piece? You kind of talked about it with relationships. I'm curious if there's anything else. If there's a piece that you've noticed that they all have, or that you have too, that has really made the success possible.
Sure. So, what I can say on a smaller level that I think is really important, obviously the relationships, because it does start out with a relationship connected to it. But then, I've coached several people, and I'm one of these individuals that when it comes to coaching, consulting, and teaching people that I want everybody, like if I'm their coach, they need to be, making millions of dollars really quick. They need to be really successful. And I feel kind of like obligated and responsible if they're not. But then I realized, look, I can give 10 people the same information, the same coaching, and not all 10 of them are going to have the same results. But one of the attributes that sticks out the most in those that do succeed is just like a relentlessness, like a never give up type mentality, a resilience, a fortitude, just to, knock you down and, man, I'm going to get back up. And I think in my personal life, and I think we talked about this a little bit before our call here, that you're going to have times where stuff you're going to get punched in the stomach. Systems are going to get shut down. Algorithms are going to change, and accounts are going to get shut down, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And you can be one of these people that, oh man, it gets shut down, it's over, and you go in your corner and cry and suck your thumb and like, I'm done. Or you can like, just get back up. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to, it's going to work out. So that resilience and that ability to adapt and get back up is so critical when it comes to the journey of an entrepreneur.
So it's like who we're going to be when circumstances happen, right? Because everything you describe are circumstances, and life is a round ball of circumstances that are constantly happening. And those that are resilient, relentless, unwilling to stop are the ones that you see succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I'm sure that there's some things that I've went through that a person in similar situations, they're like, man, I'm gonna go back to the 9-to-5 job. And there, honestly, there is that, that's part of the journey, is like, do I go back? Because the 9-to-5, you've got that net, you've got that, I know I'm getting a paycheck week to week. As an entrepreneur, man, you don't know. It could be like week to week, it could be month to month, it could be every 2 to 3 months. You don't know. So it's, I've heard one person put it this way, 9-to-5 job, you have that net, but an entrepreneur, there's no ceiling. So you have to kind of like weigh out, okay, do I want this net to keep me safe, or do I want the ability to go higher than the ceiling that's placed upon me in a 9-to-5 job? So yeah, you have to be able to be resilient and just push through it.
Yeah, it's like safety versus possibility. It's and there's nothing wrong with either one, right? We can't, if everyone can't do a 9-to-5, we wouldn't have any businesses, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I was talking to a friend, and he's like, these people that have this 9-to-5 mindset, I just don't understand them. They just, and I'm like, bro, I appreciate them because they're working for me. You know what I mean? And that we need those, and it's not a knock on them at all. I mean, it's great. But there's certain people that, you talk to, they're like, look, 9-to-5's not going to work for me. So then
I think
you got to hustle.
Yeah, I think the key is that are the right people doing the right thing, right? The person who wants to really get out there and fly and explore and be adventurous and take chances, are they stuck in the 9-to-5 because they're too scared? And is the person that really would prefer some stability and would prefer to, maybe have more time with just their family or other things that are important to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing the entrepreneur thing because they think that's the thing they're supposed to be doing? It might not be. I think it's a really personal choice. But
Right.
Yeah, neither one. We need each other, right? You can't have no business would be formed if there wasn't an original entrepreneur, and no business would work if there weren't people to work the jobs in the business.
Right. Absolutely.
I want to hit you with a couple of quick rapid fires as we head towards the end. Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on that you're just like really proud of?
Yeah. So I had someone ask me the other day, who's like my favorite client, and we have worked with a lot of cool people, everything from Fortune 500 companies, A-list celebrities, and worked on movies and projects. But I think the coolest opportunity or coolest client, Tai Lopez, is a great guy. He's an awesome guy. He's given me a lot of opportunity and helped me establish a lot of great relationships. And I talk to him almost every day, and just a great guy.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, you see Tai Lopez is huge, and you see him all over social media. And I think we never get an insight into, hey, who are these people and what are they? Are they actually like good people, or are they just selling a thing?
Yeah.
So, he seems like a really interesting, clearly brilliant guy, but it's cool to hear that what he actually has is the depth of relationship with you.
Sure.
That's what it sounds like. It makes it important. Yeah. Okay. 25 years of marriage, 3 kids, a business. What's the marriage tip that you would give to entrepreneurs that are also, want to have great relationships?
Your wife is always right. I'm just kidding. Man, I tell you what, you have to put your family as your priority, because I mean, I'm doing this for my family. So if my family is not my priority, then I'm doing it for, it's not going to work out. And then, obviously in a marriage relationship, the dynamic of growing with each other, learning from each other, and trusting each other's insight and opinion is extremely valuable.
Nice. So 2, you give me 3 things. That's great. The first one is start by listening to your wife. What about for your kids? If you're a parent and it's not that your kids have to be entrepreneurs, but if you wanted to give your kids an entrepreneurial mindset from a young age, what tip would you give as a parenting tip?
Yeah. So I think when children see the opportunity, the greatest thing that we can teach them is example. Teach them by example. When they see that, when they see you grow in opportunities, then they will gravitate toward that. So I think it's showing them by example the direction that you want them to go, and equipping them in the journey and being there for them. Again, I'm not one of these that just like spoil my kids and give them everything that they want, but I try to give them the skills so that they can get it themselves. My kids are like, I want to buy my house, have my house paid for before I get married. And my daughter, she's going to be getting married in a few months, and she's got more money in the bank that she saved up from working that I had when I was her age. I mean, it's just like, I didn't have that much money in the bank until I was twice her age. So those things are really important.
And then what's next for you? What's the next big goal that you are working towards?
So within the internet marketing nerds and our company, our structure, what we like to do is we like to build other nerds and teaching people how to do what we're doing. I think there comes a point when you've done this, you've succeeded, you're like really legitimately doing this type of stuff, and you know what is necessary to make things work, that you feel a responsibility like, okay, I can legitimately help people. I can help the person that is, a work at home mom that is trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And, I can help the guy that is at, a workplace that he doesn't like. He's got a mean boss. I can help them. I can teach them how they can become entrepreneurs. So that's, kind of the next phase is we want to build more nerds and teach people how to go to the next level in their business.
That's awesome. Like, so paying it forward. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Paul, thanks for doing this. Thanks for having this conversation. You are an extraordinarily busy man. Congratulations on 1 million Instagram followers. Congratulations on 3 what sounds like awesome kids.
Yes.
Same thing with a great marriage. 25 years is totally an accomplishment. But thanks for, I'm really just present to the love that you have for your family, the wisdom that you bring, but also the fact that you cherish relationships. That is kind of the backbone about what you do. And I think that if more people in the world cared that much about other people and about relationships, we'd actually just be living in a better country, a better world. We would just all be happier and more fulfilled. So thanks for being somebody who's doing that.
Absolutely. Well, it has been my pleasure. And like I said, I wanted to be on this podcast with you for relationships, man, to get connected with you, be a part of what you're doing. And if I can bring any value to you, to your audience, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I got a ton from this, and I know the listeners will too. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the DreamMason podcast. Please subscribe to the DreamMason podcast so you don't miss an episode. Share it with a friend and give us a review on iTunes. I am grateful to have had you here. If you want more, you can follow or reach out to me, Alex Terranova, on Instagram at inspirationalalex or at thedreammason.com, or email me at alex@thedreammason.com. And remember, you are a dream mason because your dreams don't build themselves.